Mic test. Zimba. Got me? Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome. We're about to start this evening's event. Are you hearing me clearly out there, everyone? Perhaps I don't need a microphone then. Okay. Good evening once again, and let me start by first of all acknowledging the presence of the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, and the Deputy Premier, the Honorable Eric Evelyn. And there are no other cabinet members here, but we do have with us a member of the Nevis Island Assembly, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, I apologize, and any other members of government we don't. Okay, good. I want to welcome all of you here in your capacity as citizens of Nevis, residents of Nevis, visitors, or persons who are interested in this particular project, the upgrade and advancement of the Vance W International Airport. I welcome you this evening to this consultation, which is the second in a series of many such consultations, as we come to you, the general public, to explain the project to you, to discuss the project with you, and from all of the discussions and information garnered, come back with a final design for you as the citizens and residents of this island. This project, the upgrade and advancement or development of the Vance W International Airport, is one that has been talked about for many years. If I were to just give you a little bit of history, the last serious work that was done at the Vance W International Airport was over 20 years ago. And that was done at that particular point in time to welcome the American Eagle, which was then a turboprop aircraft out of Puerto Rico. So that was the connection we had to the US mainland, so to speak. That is the American Eagle and that type of aircraft. Those days span somewhere between 2003, 2004, up to at least 2008. And of course, we remember what happened in 2008 with the global meltdown, the financial global meltdown. That sort of impacted those flights at that particular point in time. Further to that, we recall that the American Airlines would have moved their hub out of Puerto Rico and moved to Miami. And thus, they would have discontinued the use of that particular type of aircraft, the ATR-72, which is a turboprop aircraft. That aircraft at that time would have provided meaningful airlift to Nevis. And I'm sure those who are familiar with the tourism sector, the numbers then would suggest that those airlift at that particular point in time would have been beneficial to both the traveling public here on the island of Nevis and also visitors. The Four Seasons Resort would tell you, or persons at the Four Seasons Resort would tell you, that those days, most of the logistical nightmare that they're encountering at this point in time were non-existent then. Other hoteliers would tell you that those airlift that were provided then would have been beneficial to their properties in terms of visitors coming to the shores of Nevis and utilizing their property. Since then, over the last 10 years thereabout, we have seen a huge fall off in airlift to Nevis, directly to Nevis, that is. Indeed, there is airlift into St. Kitts. And many may say that we have an international airport nearby, and that is good enough to serve the island of Nevis. Well, the Nevis Island administration is saying that is not good enough for us, because the numbers suggest to us that with a direct flight to Nevis, for example, at this point in time from Miami, for example, would be a huge game changer for the island of Nevis. When the promotion of this island is done, it is done to invite our guests to Nevis. When the promotion of Nevis is done, it is done to ensure that our citizens as well can have direct access to the island of Nevis. And so we have sought to engage a company or a consortium by the name of Perez Engineering, and they can boast of at least almost 100 years of experience throughout the world. You say 45? No, while I'm counting your experience, Leonardo's experience, Dennis Kane's experience, and putting it all together, and I'm coming up with 100. You have 45 yourself. That being said, they would actually expound more on their experiences, but they have done airports in Africa, in Canada, in Jamaica, in Cuba, and most recently in St. Vincent, which is the Argyle International Airport. So they come with a wealth of knowledge and experience, and that is why we would have engaged them. That being said, you would want to know what the exact scope of work would be undertaken down there at the Vance W International Airport. I can lay that out to you, but at least when the slides are shown, you'll get a better understanding at that point in time. But I will say to you that we are, first of all, hoping to realign the Island Main Road, that road that is currently in front of the Tire World. All they would now become the property of the Vance W International Airport. So that road would then be realigned to the back of Tire World, and that would be shown on the rendering that you would see shortly. We would also remove the entire perimeter fence and upgrade that as well, taller fence and much more secured fence line for the airport property. We also will improve, refurbish, and enhance the passenger terminal. We are also going to improve and enhance the control tower. We will be constructing a brand new fire hall and the appropriate equipment. We're also extending the runway and resurfacing that runway as well. We're also going to be including in that expansion brand new lighting for the airfield. Additionally, we'll be constructing a new jet hangar, improve apron space and expanded apron space as well, parking apron that is. Also, there will be a brand new fuel farm that will be constructed. And indeed, we will be relocating the cargo facility, thank you, cargo facility by constructing a brand new cargo shed. And of course, we are in discussions with a particular company who are interested in operating a flight school out of the Vance W International Airport. So the scope of work is all meant to enhance, improve, and also bring new life to the Vance W International Airport. During the construction phase, of course, there will be opportunities for employment in terms of contractors, subcontractors, laborers, security personnel, and all of the necessary personnel that are required in the construction phase. After the construction, of course, there will be a demand for new control, air control officers. There will be increased demand for taxi operators, baggage handlers, ramp attendants. Concession stands will be in the airport terminal. There will be additional passengers and visitors to our hotel properties for sure, with the marketing that will be done of the airport and the island of Nevis. And of course, all of this, and I can go on, but all of this and all of the activities that we are trying to undertake here is to raise the profile of the island of Nevis and to make sure that Vance W become a game changer in our overall development here on the island of Nevis. I will say to you, and I'll be blunt about it, that for the development of an island to take place, you need airlift and you also need that access by sea. And by sea, I mean perhaps through a new cruise facility and otherwise. That is for another conversation. But of course, the upgrade will provide us with additional access to the U.S. mainland and beyond. I want to say to you that the Vance W International Airport upgrade and reconstruction is no longer an option for us at this point in time in terms of questioning our decision-making process when it comes to that facility. And I say it's no longer an option for us to discuss and to procrastinate because it has been discussed time and time again, and the frustration has been there for many years. So that being said, the Nevis Island Administration is committed to this project. We are committed to ensuring that the benefits of this project are realized by all citizens, residents, and all of the hoteliers and hotel properties here on the island of Nevis. Before I close, though, let me just say that in our discussions with, for example, an entity like Four Seasons, who would have been the major beneficiary of the expanded work back in 2003, thereabout. But prior to that, and also 2003 when it ended, Four Seasons would have gotten guests through the Vance W International Airport, taken taxis and down to the hotel property. These days, they have to mobilize workers, equipment, and otherwise to go to the RLB. And they go to the RLB, meet those guests, put their baggage in box trucks and truck them to whether Christopher Harbor or to Reggae Beach, put their guests on coaster buses, transport them to Christopher Harbor, and then over to the Four Seasons via water taxis. They have said to us that this certainly can be a game changer for them in terms of the cost involved in mobilizing the necessary resources to go to St. Kitts to meet their guests. And indeed, their guests are saying to them as well, it is becoming more and more difficult to go through all those particular movements, so to speak, to get into the island of Nevis and begin to enjoy their vacation. Simply put, we're trying to make life easy for all visitors. We're trying to make sure that the standard of living here on the island of Nevis can improve. We are making sure that the people of Nevis are proud of the island of Nevis. When we sell our island, we can say that persons are coming directly to us instead of going to various parts of the world to get to Nevis, when of course they can come directly from Miami, directly from Atlanta, for example, to our shores. We're trying to make life easy for our guests. And I'm sure that the entire Nevis Island Administration will solicit your support in this project. I know there are questions regarding it and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions. But this project, as I said before, will certainly be a game changer for the island of Nevis and for the people who live here and those who plan to visit our beautiful shores. That being said, and I'll leave it there for now, but you didn't come to hear me. You came to listen to the consultants that we have engaged, and the consultants will then lay out the project to you in terms of the renderings that they'll show you this evening. And at the end of it all, we'll have a question and answer segment. So thank you for coming, thank you for listening, and I'll now turn you over to Mr. Daniel Cassell, who will now present the project to you. Thank you very much.
It does. Well, I think that Mr. Jeffers, can you hear me well? Yes? I think he knows the project so much that I don't know what I'm going to say. I think he said everything. Okay. So I want to stop a little bit on this site plan. It's called a context plan, that it's just dropped on top of the actual Nevis area of Newcastle. At this moment, in the lighter color, we can see the existing runway of the airport. That existing runway now, because we have an obstruction here that we cannot see, what everybody knows, Hurricane Hill, doesn't allow the planes to approach and land on the edge of the runway. So there is what we call a displaced threshold, that is where the planes, after avoiding the obstruction, can land on the airport. So this length now available for them to land is limited. It's around 3,400 feet. I'm gonna please talk on round numbers. We are still dealing with little adjustments on the runway. But in round numbers, we are allowed to land on 3,400 feet. The plan for this airport is to allow business jets, any business jets in the moment that exist in the world, or whatever is going to be built, to land and take off from this airport to any destination that the plane can reach full of load. Actually, that cannot happen because of that limitation. Some of the business jets cannot operate fully loaded to their destinations. That's one objective. The other one, at the same time, is try to operate on this expanded runway a mid-range aircraft type Embraer 175 regional jets with a capacity of 70 to 80 passengers, and allow these planes to land and to take off fully loaded to destinations in the region. And we will be able to reach Miami or close to those destinations with this kind of expansion. So that's one thing that we are allowing Nevis to have. It's not competing with St. Kitts in terms of big planes. We are not planning to do that here, but that's the purpose of this expansion. So the expansion actually commits 300 meters towards what Nesbitt Plantation actually is. As you can see, there is this area of water management that works there that we are not touching with this expansion. And we try to avoid all the wetland and all the protected areas that are on this zone established by environmental plans from Nevis for a long time ago. So in this term, 300 meters in this direction and 260 meters on that direction. It implies that we will have to proceed with a little sea work here, but because at this time, you can see where the end is, we are doing this expansion, and then, since we are preserving all the north properties as they are, we are not affecting those properties, so we have to provide access to these properties because we are, the current access will be in the area of expansion. So obviously, this is a proposal. We are still working on the engineering of the road because, as you can see, the existing road will get into the land of the airport. So we have to do a realignment of this road to access the airport there. And all these existing areas of road will be included into the airport land. The main elements that we're improving, obviously the runway will be reinforced in all its length. The airfield lighting will be replaced and done anew now. And all the safety strips will be re-leveled to match all the standards required. Also, this road that now is truncated here is broken. The access will be reconstructed around and get into the main road here. So we will have a ring road around all these areas as a result of the expansion. The existing apron, which is around 10,000 square meters, will be expanded. The new apron will have 15,000 square meters, and the destination of the new apron is basically for business jets operation. We will have an hangar there. This hangar will be also connected to the new apron. And one of the big problems that Nevis has now is that all these business jets that come here, they cannot stay here because they don't have area for parking or service. So these jets had to leave to St. Kitts or to other destination, and that's something that Nevis can solve to remain and service all these business jets here at the airport. The fuel farm, the existing one, is too close to the installation. It doesn't comply with ICAO, the International Airport Organization's standards, and we will move it to this area on the new expansion zone. The cargo installation will be here with a new apron and a new taxiway, separated from the operation of the terminal building. Now we have the cargo in the terminal building, something that's not proper. It doesn't work. We don't need to have all these people and organizations coming into the terminal building to get the cargo. And when the airport grows in this capacity for landing, it's going to grow in cargo as well. I mean, bigger planes, more cargo, for sure, in and out. So we need a proper installation to handle the cargo. The existing fire station, as you can see, we will see, it's abandoned because the structure, it's just done, and there is a temporary thing built, and we will build a new one. The control tower, even though it's in working condition, but it's in really bad shape. So we will fix that tower, and we will reshape the exterior of the control tower as well as part of the design. That's basically all the elements of the site plan that are included in this project. This works. Okay. So this is a view of what we have now, what we were describing. As you can see, there is the edge of the runway. There is the display threshold here. And this is where we're planning to expand on this side. The new apron will be beside this apron here. We will take all these areas here, and the fuel will be on that area there. The new fire hall will be on this area here. That already is the property of the airport. It doesn't clip very well, huh? There you go. All right, so as you can see, the existing road is just beside the airport fence. So that has to be redirected on that direction and connect to the main road. And this area will belong to the airport. That's a really nice view, a pilot's view. So that there, the expansion on that way 300 meters, on this way 260 meters, and we will be able to achieve, now you have 3,400 feet for landing. We will have 4,400 for landing, 1,000 feet more, and 5,800 feet for takeoff. That covers any plane that we talk about here. Yeah, this is a rendering of what we were talking about with the expansion. Actually ends here, expansion, all this area that we will acquire, the hangar, new apron, existing terminal. The terminal is another element that we have to take care of because it's not prepared for 80 passengers coming in and 80 passengers going out. So there is a restructure and remodeling of the terminal that it goes together with the plan. Okay, so this is the status of the control tower now. As you can see, the condition of the structure is okay, but the whole condition of the architectural elements are in very bad shape. So there are, leaks, there are cables for around the piping, there is something that we have to take care of. So we're planning to do this. This is the rendering of we're planning to reshaping all the railings, aluminum cover, and just to give a much better impression, mainly for all the companies that will come here trying to operate and see the control tower. This is the existing firefighting station. This building is abandoned because it structurally failed, and now there is a temporary building that was done for the trucks that we have to protect. So it's not in good condition. This is the new fire station that we're planning. There is a rendering, as you can see, it's a total new building with the observation that they need and all the requirements for the crews, for living quarters, and for technical truck maintenance and warehouse. And that's a terminal. Well, I think that everybody knows the terminal. There are some areas that we will need really to make better. It was a building that probably for the small planes that were conceived when it was done, it was okay. But now the areas that we have cannot handle that kind of traffic. So this is what we're planning to do. In terms of the building, we are preserving the shape and structure of the building, but we are expanding in both ends in a way that the center can be expanded internally and handle the traffic that we require. The parking area, the access will also be redone. And that's more or less the scope of our project. So please, if you have any questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dan. Well, that is a presentation of the project to the extent that we have it at this point in time. It is an elaborate project which cannot just be captured in pictures, but over the next couple of town hall meetings that we are planning, more will be said and more will be divulged. But I'm sure at this point in time, there are persons who have questions, and indeed we are open for questions and will welcome any question this evening that can be answered. The persons at the head table will certainly accommodate your inquiries and questions. There's a microphone, if you can have one available to pass around to, you're going to use this one? Yeah, okay.
Hello.
have to come to the stand.
Good evening. Thank you.
Okay, so at least for those of us here, well, you'll state your name, at least introduce yourself, and then ask questions, so that we can capture that and know who the questions are coming from.
Fair enough. Good evening. My name is Brian Dyer. I want to thank you for your presentation. However, my observation, the presentation lacked the information on declared distances for the airport, for the expansion. Could you provide the accelerated stop distance, landing distance available, width of the strip, etc.?
The distances?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, as I say there, you have available for landing 3,400 feet, which is very limited. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, currently. Yeah. Now, let's talk about landing first. So because of the displacement of the threshold, physically you don't have the whole runway for landing.
I'm aware of that, sir.
So you have 3,400 feet. I'm talking in round numbers, maybe 10 or 15 feet more or less. But you have 3,400 feet for landing, actually, now. We are expanding for landing 1,000 feet to the east, towards Nevis plantation area. Yeah. I'm providing a minimum of 4,400 feet for landing. Basically, all the planes that we mentioned, none needs that length. All of them can land on that distance, including the Embraer and the regional jets. And for takeoff, since we add 1,000, and then we will add 860 in the other direction, you will have between 58 and 5,900 feet for takeoff. So those are the distances that you physically are getting with the project.
All right. The airport is currently code 2C. Based on your expansion, you're moving from 2C to 3C. So what are the distances you expect for the runway strip? Are we moving to 75 meters, or are we remaining at 60 meters?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you very well. I don't know exactly the question.
Currently, we have an airport that is category 2C, based on the type of aircraft it was designed for. Wingspan and... Yes. Exactly. So with the expansion, we are moving from 2C to 3C. So you're saying the expansion would incorporate all the requirements for a 3C airport. That's what you're saying?
We won't be able to change the category of the airport. The airport will remain 2C visual. We cannot change the category because we have the obstruction and we don't have the required strips, safety strips, for getting a better category. Now, that can happen as soon as we get rid of the obstruction and as soon as we can get the required strips. Otherwise, we have to remain in 2C.
Thank you very much, sir.
Then operation with the companies have to be agreed in terms of what the airport can offer. This is a way betterment process for the airport, but we cannot think that now we can up the category to another following category because we don't have the safety strips and we still have the obstruction.
Monique Washington, resident of St. James. I know you spoke earlier about Hurricane Hill. What is the plan for Hurricane Hill? And how will this project affect Lovers Lane, which is the beach that you're going to be expanding towards? And also, what is the impact, or what, if there will be any impact, to the police station and the residents in that area, or will those homes be placed somewhere else? And lastly, I didn't hear you speak about budget funding or anything like that. What will be the cost of this project, and who will be the primary funder?
Yes. One of the things we try to do with expansion is to not interfere with the system. One of the main things that we have to be careful here is the hydraulic area, I'm meaning the drainage of the airport. As we know, this area, all the hills that surround that area tribute the water down to the area of the airport, because it's logical, it's where it goes. Currently, the drainage system works fine for what we have. So one of the things we are doing is a careful drainage project that considers that situation, considers what we are expanding and where we're gonna solve, that these expansions do not impact all that system. It means that we try to avoid, as I said at the beginning, we try to avoid the management water system that exists between Nevis and the airport. There is a big system there that controls all the flow of water coming down from the hills. And there is a wetland in between the airport and that system that we try to respect as much as we can, not intruding into this wetland system area. So for that part, we are really trying, and there is an environmental deep analysis going on that what the impact will be of the airport to Nevis and what impact Nevis will do to the airport. Because this is a two-way lane. We have to provide, with the project, we have to provide something that the international organization called use of land, which means something that you say, can this house have a mango tree that's, you know, how many feet tall, that kind of regulation, or erect a tower or a water tank that will be an obstruction to the airport. So we try to respect all these properties and their possibilities, but they will have to have some kind of regulation in some aspects. Basically, when they do not interfere with the aviation operation, with the surfaces that we have to preserve for the operation of the aircraft. So we're trying to be as thorough as possible in this analysis, including the environmental, to not affect these islands in any level that it cannot handle. Yeah, the area that we're going that way, we also try not to affect as much as we can. That area of this beach that beside is a very shallow area. The sea work that we're doing there won't be very significant in terms of movement, but there will be some impact on this area that we are assessing right now, for sure.
About how much of Lovers Beach would you be taking in? You have an idea of that?
We're not taking in any section of the Lovers Beach. The work that will be done in the ocean would be minimal when it's all said and done in terms of intrusion into the ocean. I will say this to you, Monique. the work that is planned or proposed for that area, the EIA that will be presented at a later consultation will cover the work that would be done in terms of the impact that it would have on Lovers Beach. So I will say, once that EIA is completed, then all of the questions along those lines will be answered or will be dealt with. Yeah? You asked the question of budget as well, and also where the financing is going to come from. Some time ago, I believe it was about 2 years ago, it was disclosed to the Nevisian public that we were in discussions with Patrick Drahi in terms of his partnership with the Nevis Island Administration, and we are familiar with public-private partnership. You've heard that being mentioned throughout the world. If an institution such as the government cannot find the funding for a project, they partner with someone. That was an MOU, which is not a binding agreement, but at least he has shown interest in financing the project to help the Nevis Island Administration to get to where it wants to get to. There are other areas that we are looking at, and of course, in subsequent conversation, we can always divulge more. But in terms of what we are seeking to spend on that project is somewhere between 25 to 30 million US dollars to accomplish what we are hoping to accomplish. But more details on that, of course, we're not quite there yet with all of the details, and that will be known to the general public as we go along. But we have spoken about the partnership with Patrick Drahi, and we're looking at other options, but all options will be explored to ensure that we can get the financing, secure the financing to move this project along.
It's good. Hey, good night. My name is Ryan Kadu. I work at the Department of Physical Planning. My question, however, is regarding the cargo area. You said something about having an area for cargo itself. Would that include, would that suggest that you're talking about, I know DHL and you have packages coming to the island through the airport? Are you speaking specific to those packages being able to be serviced at one end? You're talking about all luggages, both persons who traveling on the airline having to send all of their cargo into one area, and then they would go to that area for the cargo? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by a cargo area.
Okay. Currently at the Vance W International Airport, the area where passengers arrive and their luggage is brought into that area, that is the same area being used for cargo from DHL, FedEx, and any other aircraft that brings cargo. But luggage and cargo are two separate things. So we are trying to separate them, meaning if you were to go to any international airport or any airport, even RLB, cargo is handled in a separate location to the arrival area or the baggage, luggage area. So we are seeking to remove that. And that is why the presenter would have said that we are constructing a cargo shed separate and apart on the airport compound. That would give us more space too for passengers and luggage. For example, if you have, let's say, an American Eagle coming there with 70 passengers and their luggage, then you have an additional aircraft that lands with, for example, 20 passengers and their luggage. The space that we are seeking to provide should accommodate all that. But in the current state that it's at, it certainly won't. And that is why we are trying to conform to international standards and practices by removing the cargo from the luggage and arrival area and putting it in a separate location on the airport compound.
All right, I really appreciate you clearing that up. I just wanted to make sure I have an understanding of what it meant by cargo area. Piggybacking off of what Dyer was asking earlier, I don't know if he was asking about the width of the airport. Am I? So he was asking about the width. You mentioned about length, extending the lengthwise. So I'm wondering if the extension would include expanding width-wise now as well?
No. The width of the runway and the width of the strips are according to the category of this airport. We don't have any problems with that. The runway complies, the strips comply for the 2C category visual operation.
Okay.
So we are not going to expand the runway because the aircraft we are planning to operate on the airport, they are under standards to operate on this runway.
All right, so last question now. In terms of the aircrafts that you're willing to welcome, I'm not an aviation personnel, but my question would be, would it include the regional jets now that can't land here? Or would it, like, what size of aircraft? I know you mentioned Miami and so forth. You're saying that that's the type of size you're going for, and what airlines would be able to welcome now with?
The design aircraft for this expansion is the Embraer 175. It's an aircraft middle range that can carry 70 to 80 passengers, depending on the configuration of the plane, and the range of this plane is perfectly compatible to reaching Miami, as you said. It doesn't exclude another regional jets that are on the same category of that aircraft.
If I might just add while someone else is coming to the microphone, the Embraer 175 is a popular aircraft. It's being used by American Airlines, it's being used by other airline companies in the United States. As a matter of fact, it is also one of the aircraft being used for charters out of the US mainland as well. If we are following the aviation news, you know that Anguilla is currently receiving that particular type of aircraft. The British Virgin Islands is also receiving that particular size of aircraft, and Dominica, for example. So those countries on islands are receiving the Embraer 175. The Embraer 145, which is being used by Inter-Caribbean, that also would be able to land there. It is not so much a popular aircraft because, of course, they've gone to other aircraft as well. Indeed, we believe, based on the discussions we've had with some of the personnel at Four Seasons and Park Heights and so forth, in terms of chartering an aircraft such as that, that would fit right into their business model in terms of moving their groups from Miami or any other point in the United States on the East Coast, that is, to Nevis. So it fits right into their business plan and what they're hoping to accomplish once they're able to move passengers into the Vance W International Airport. And they have struggled over the years, and and part of the reason why we are moving ahead with our expansion is because of the discussions we've had with them. Indeed, the 737 and the 777s and so forth would still be landing in St. Kitts. Our guests and citizens, residents, will still use that size of aircraft to come out of Miami the same way, out of Charlotte and out of New York, for example. Those similar type would still be going into St. Kitts. But we are seeking to capture what we know we can capture to come into Nevis. And if the history and the data of the past is to be looked at, it would suggest that once we're able to get to that point once again, those numbers, I'm sure, will be coming into Nevis. And indeed, eliminating some of the challenges that some of the properties here on the island of Nevis have been experiencing. Someone is at the mic.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to a very concise, professional presentation. I wonder whether you could give a little context in terms of the volume of traffic your business case is based on, and also perhaps explain a little bit why you're expanding to the south toward Lovers Beach when Hurricane Hill is in the way. I didn't quite understand the logic there when there are already difficulties in landing on the current runway.
let's say that this airport is, it was very well located on the 50s when it was a dirt kind of runway. The winds are perfect located for this operation. The problem is that Hurricane Hill is on the center line of the runway, actually. So the elevation of the Hurricane Hill doesn't allow the landing path of the plane to hit the end of the runway. The angle that they have to do to avoid the obstruction lands then where we have the displaced threshold right now. So that's the thing. We cannot change that physically because there is no way that we can change the path of the landing approach to the new end of the runway with obstruction there. So we have to go over the obstruction, and that displaced threshold that was perfectly calculated before have to remain for now. But what we're gaining with expansion is the takeoff possibility for the planes, and then the range that they can reach, you know, destinations and markets that we cannot reach now directly from Nevis. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, if I were to say, simply put, the threshold that exists, the landing threshold, will not move. We'll get additional runway before you get to that threshold, and additional runway going to the east. So for taking off, then you'll have the entire length of the runway for takeoff. Not in this phase. Not in,
What have you placed the projections on in terms of the number of passengers?
I think that the peak hour we are calculating for the terminal is 80 passengers in, 80 passengers out. So it's 160 in the peak hour. That's the calculation for the expansion of the terminal. Now, we are taking into consideration that at the same time we can have another flights, and not just the flight of the regional jet only. So we are considering that also in the buffer we are providing in the design for that particular situation. Check-in areas, holding areas for that possible situation there.
Good evening. I am Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, elected representative for the St. James constituency. I have a few questions, and I would pause after each one so that you can address them separately. The first question has to do with the statement made by the advisor that the numbers indicate that the proposed work would be a game changer for Nevis. What is the source of these numbers that you make reference to?
yes, we have had meetings with NASPA and the Tourism Authority over the last couple of days. And they would have had to produce those numbers in terms of what the arrival and departure numbers were between the years 2004 and 2008 when we had that global meltdown. So those numbers were provided in various meetings that we have had. Those were provided by NASPA. The Tourism Authority would have also provided numbers in terms of their marketing strategies that they would have applied and what the net result of those marketing strategies would have produced. So those numbers, for example, if I were to just look at a quick number, for example, from NASPA. NASPA is saying to us yesterday, for example, that between the years 2006 to 2018, for example, through the Vance W International Airport, in excess of 430,000+ persons would have, not persons, but passengers. Let us be clear, because a person can go in the morning and come back in the evening. That's a passenger twice. So they're saying passengers, over 430,000 passengers would have used the facilities there at Vance W International Airport. Now, in terms of further numbers, those numbers exist and can be provided. It wasn't planned to be a part of this meeting this evening, but I just alluded to numbers suggest. But of course, those numbers can be provided at any time. They're available. But that number I just gave you is one such number that I recorded yesterday in our discussions with NASPA.
So you're saying that the proposed design is based on numbers that you received yesterday?
There are numbers that have existed for all those years that I just mentioned, 2006, for example, to 2013. They're not numbers that were created yesterday. Those are data that has been captured over the years.
So on what basis is this design proposed?
The basis is based on quite a number of parameters. We have
Such as?
looked at the American Eagle when the expansion was done initially back in 2000. Well, the American Eagle came in 2004 thereabout, but the expansion took place prior to that, of course. But the American Eagle, those numbers suggest to us that based on what happened then, and you were to multiply those numbers with a bigger aircraft coming directly from Miami, there's no doubt that you will see increased numbers, increased passenger arrival. Between the years 2008 and 2018 or 2020 thereabout, we understand that there was no connection to the U.S. mainland, to Nevis. Yes, there was connection to RLB, that is. But of course, we have not had that connection. But I'll say to you, Dr. Hodge, one of the difficulties that the Nevis Tourism Authority and the Ministry of Tourism have had over the years is to get the exact data out of St. Kitts. And indeed, based on their conversation with us, they have said that based on the numbers that they're seeing into Four Seasons and other properties who are not coming through the Vance W International Airport, it suggests to us that when an aircraft lands in St. Kitts from Miami, for example, it is their suggestion that almost 60% in some cases are bound for Nevis. And that is, those are numbers that they have had to not necessarily, they're not fabricating, but of course, based on the hotel stock here and based on the numbers that they're getting from the hotel plants here, they are suggesting that if they're not coming through Vance W, they're coming through RLB, because I don't think there are any boats bringing a large amount of people here to stay overnight.
All right, well, one last comment regarding this, and I'll move on to the next question, because it is clear that a professional feasibility study was not done to guide the design and the approach that is being taken for the airport expansion. The second question has to do with the property owners in the area that is proposed for expansion. Has there been any formal engagement of property owners who are to be impacted by the proposed expansion?
Indeed, there has been. As a matter of fact, I can say to you that we have made offers, we have had counter offers, and we have now received. We are at the point of acceptance where we have accepted the counter offers of the property owners who would be impacted.
So if persons have not been contacted up to this point, they would be safe to say that they would not have to be a subject of relocation. You would have contacted formally all of the persons.
I have said that the landowners who would be impacted, whom we have contacted as well, who would have written to, would have gotten an acceptance from them. We have already reached to that stage, and we're now seeking to compensate.
You mentioned that the NIA is committed to the project. Mm-hmm. As we know, NASPA is the statutory body that has the responsibility to deal with the airport and the work surrounding. I would have asked before, and I ask again, what is the role of NASPA with regards to informing the decisions, rather than suggesting some numbers per se? What role does NASPA have, the statutory body which is charged with these types of work? what is their role in this project?
Well, let me say NASPA is fully involved in the project. And let's look at the ministries and the functioning of government. NASPA falls under the ambit of the Premier's ministry. The Premier and Minister of Finance is the one who is directly responsible for NASPA as an entity. Yes, NASPA has a board of directors, a chairman, and directors as well. So everything flows from the Premier's ministry to NASPA, and of course, that is how the process works. Indeed, from day one, NASPA has been consulted on this project. And any information that has been spoken about, or any numbers that will be, can be, and should be divulged, will come from NASPA. And as such, NASPA, as an entity, which falls under the Premier's ministry, have been involved in this project in every possible way through the Premier's ministry, which is, well, the NIA is a government, entire government.
I beg to differ, but anyway. To move along, with regards...
And indeed, if I may say, because we should not get bogged down with NASPA. NASPA manages the airport, seaport. There are 4 entities that NASPA manages: Long Point, Charlestown, the Wally Water Taxi Facility, and the airport. Now, if they're managing it, the NIA can build any facility and hand it over to NASPA to manage. So to get bogged down with NASPA, are they involved? If we are to expand the airport and we need information, we go to NASPA, yes. Ultimately, when the keys are handed over to the NIA, they hand them over to NASPA, and NASPA manages the facility. Let's not complicate matters.
Maybe that's why we have so many problems in Nevis.
It's as simple as that.
The last question, I recognize that significant design work is being done. At what juncture do you propose to do the environmental and social impact assessment report? And do you anticipate that there could be changes to the design based on the findings of such a report?
Yes. We are now probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks for the conclusion of the report that has been done, and it's taken into consideration of the information and previous documentation that Nevis produced in terms of restricted areas, protected areas, and what is the impact, the specific impact of this expansion on those areas. We have to include, and we are including another elements there, like protection against the bird proliferation on the area, which is a safety concern for every airport. We don't, at the moment, we don't have any problem detected with the coral reefs or with the impact on these sea areas, but a total report is done by the specialists right now, and then I think we're 2 to 3 weeks away on getting all that documentation of the environmental impact.
And I suspect that there would be additional public consultations to present the findings of the ESIA.
Yes, we're going to provide that, and we will start a round of discussion about that with everybody involved in the environmental thing of them. We want to preserve this island. I mean, this is one of the main goals from the beginning of the project. We're trying not to impact negatively the island in any way.
Thank you very much. I would have to leave now, not that I'm not interested in what is going to be coming after, but I do have another appointment. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah, good evening. Mr. Jeffers, good evening. The name is John Yarwood, yes. I'm from Wally Beach Resort. I just want to acknowledge the presence of some of our important politicians here, the Honorable Eric Evelyn and the Premier, and yourself, and of course, Dr. Hodge, who just left us, I think. Yeah, it shows how important this evening is. I didn't catch the name of the gentleman next to you, though. From what company? We are from Perez. Okay, very good.
Yeah, Perez Engineering, which
Good.
we belong, we are an associate of Perez Engineering. Actually, our company is ARC Associate from Ottawa, Canada.
Very good. Well, welcome, and welcome to Nevis.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I've been here since 2015.
Oh, all right. That's almost as long as I have.
Yes.
Yeah, you're sitting in a room that is all in favor of your project, I'm sure. You know, everyone in Nevis is in favor of improving the tourism product and so on. But if you will excuse me, so bring into your attention that all of these improvements are done with our money. Okay, this 30 million US dollars or whatever it is our money. Whether it comes from the fellow at Four Seasons that you mentioned earlier, we have to pay it back, and we have to pay it back with interest. So if you'll excuse us, we're interested in why we're doing this and how it's done. So, well, first of all, I'd like to mention that, 20 years ago, or should we say even 15 years ago, the little Nevis airport with 4,500 square length of feet or whatever was doing extremely well. We had all sorts of people coming in here. We had American Eagle flying in, direct from Puerto Rico. We had Win Air. After that, we had Seabourn, which I think is now called Silver Airways. We had Trade Winds and a bunch of others, And Nevis Airport was thriving. We're just 4,400 feet. We hoteliers were, laughing to the bank. I mean, people in our beds. So the first question we have to ask is, if we were doing so well with 4,400 feet, why do we need to spend $30 million to go to 5,500 square feet? Now, is it just because we want to service, 5 people with big villas at Four Seasons and to allow 5 little jets to come into Nevis? Or is it to fill the beds that we used to fill 15 years ago? So forgive me for being cynical, because it is our money we're spending.
Yeah.
Right.
John, if we can take it one by one.
Well, sorry, sir, I haven't finished yet.
No, it's not a foolish question. It has an answer to it. There is an answer to it. But John, you and I must admit that we are 20 years on or 24 years on.
Yes, we are.
The aircraft that you're talking about, well, even the companies you're talking about, some of them don't exist anymore, and the aircraft style has changed so much over the years. Now, back then when things were so robust, as you said,
yeah.
we had that hub in Puerto Rico. American Airlines have changed their ball game a long time ago and has gone to Miami. So indeed, the ATR 72 that came then out of Puerto Rico, you are aware that it can't fly out of Miami directly to Nevis. We're aware of that. So in saying that, you now have to move with the times, and you have to move with the demands of the traveling public. The traveling public is saying to us that they want to come to Nevis, but they don't want to go to 2 and 3 destinations before they get here. Now, there are aircraft available to us with the added space that we are trying to create that can come to Nevis out of Miami. And the same robust days that you're talking about, they are on the horizon with the expansion of this airport. So if we are to say, well, get guests into your hotel I'm sure you want it to be bursting at the seams and then someday expand your hotel. Are you contemplating that?
Well,
Because we want to work with you with that, you know. We want to make sure you're able to do it. So that is why we're expanding the airport to accommodate Johnny Howard and his hotel.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate your support,
sir. Even
sir.
want to fix it for you, John.
I appreciate your support, sir. But the 5 Learjets that you want to look after for 4 seasons are not going to come to Lillawali Beach. They'll go to 4 seasons. But
No,
just
John,
moving on. No problem. Just a couple other issues.
Okay.
From an environmental standpoint, I think the good gentleman next to you mentioned he was very concerned about the environment, which is really important. And he was worried about going further east because there's a wonderful wetland there. But of course, you could go further east and just put some culverts, and the water will flow through the culverts, and you can go as far east as you want. But if you go west, which is what he showed in his plan, that means going into the sea. And I don't know if you have been down there. Well, I've watched over the last 50 years, and the planning department sadly gave one landowner permission to put 15 feet into the sea, right, just at the point there. And what happened? The erosion basically downstream of that was tremendous. So much so that one of your airport lights is almost falling in the sea now, if it's not in the sea already. And if you put that extension that we saw on that screen a few minutes ago, if you put that in there, most of Lovers Beach is going to disappear. And so what I would really strongly like to recommend, sir, is before you finish your report, get some experts to look at what's going to happen downstream from putting that anything at all into that sea, because what you're going to, I would predict, I'm not a coastal engineer, but I will predict that you'll have tremendous erosion downstream, which means that the landowners downstream are going to have land go from being beachfront into waterfront. And I should remind you, Mr. Jeffers, that there is actually a development agreement signed with the government by a company to put a resort down at Lovers Beach. And if that beach disappears, then I might ask the Premier, who is a lawyer, as to what the legal ramifications of that might be. But it might be a lot more expensive than $30 million in building an expansion of the airport. So just bear that in mind, sir, when you're doing your report.
We're bearing that in mind, and we have the evidence to show that you have a huge sand deposit down there in front of your
I don't think you do, sir.
Lane too. But we hear you, and that is what the EIA will address in terms of the...
But one more thing on the EIA. I noticed you mentioned that you wanted to move the fuel farm away from the terminal building because it was dangerous to people. And you've shoved it all the way down right next to my brother's residence. So I'm a little concerned. Which people are you worried about?
John, I believe the expert can speak to that, but there are various specifications as to where fuel farms would go and the distance from
exactly. Right now on the map he showed, it was right next to my brother's residence.
Okay, John.
So please revise that plan.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
We appreciate your conversation and your comments, Mr. Yawood. But Mr. Yawood, I throw my mind back to the town hall we had here when it came to the Holy Water Taxi facility, and you were in agreement with it, and I feel and sense that you're in agreement this time as well too. Is it fair to say? Okay, leave it as that.
Good evening. I'm Lemuel Pemberton from Nevis Turtle Group, and we have been doing sea turtle conservation work on Nevis since about 2001. And Lovers Beach, that's our largest rookery or nesting area on the island. Now, I must say, since about 2008, I know you mentioned that there will be an environmental impact assessment. So I hope I will be present at that meeting. But just a few things to note right now, in that since about 2016 or thereabouts, there has been like massive erosion. I think maybe that's what John alluded to. Somebody put in some kind of rock armoring east of the beach, around maybe I don't think what they call it, yam cedar somewhere around in that area there. Let me not say I don't know exactly whose property it is. All right. But since then, we have lost about 100 meters of beach without any airport expansion or anything like that, okay? So that's to take note that that has happened. And around the middle of the year, from about, let's say, April, May, June thereabouts, going down to about the beginning of September, October, we lose about another 100 meters in the middle. That is completely eroded. So that reduces the nesting habitat. Now, to reduce that, I'm hoping that when this work is done, that maybe some sort of submerged revetments can be put in place, or maybe something like what they have done Four Seasons as well, above water. Maybe do some artificial reefs or something like that, so that the impact of the waves can be reduced. The currents change, of course. Sometimes we get the current coming directly out of a bit more directly out of the north, and that causes one type of problem. When it comes from the eastern end, and that's another problem that we have. All right, so those who use the beach a lot will see that sand builds up sometimes in the middle, maybe around this time of year, maybe around December, from October, December, maybe January, February, and then you lose at the ends at some other time, okay? So those are just some things we should take note of. Also, last thing is that I think John alluded to it as well. The two lead lights at the airport, that those have basically collapsed and in the water. So in terms of the infrastructure that we will put in place, when you're going to put in lead lights or whatever, let's hope also that these will be afforded some kind of protection, maybe better protection than those had, because these ones were practically in the water, so that we do not lose them after spending quite a bit of money. Just those couple of things.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Pemberton. And your comments are duly noted, yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Fitzroy Warner, Independent Press. So can you tell us, head table, for example, the Gulfstream 550, how many of these jets, private jets, you can park? Yeah, on the FBO side, the parking area. Because I know I visit Angola very frequent, and they have an FBO there that parks a lot of jets. I think one time they had about 60. 60 at one Christmas. Because it's a very large area. So I'm just asking, like, how many jets you'll be able to park and the economic impact of that.
Perhaps you want to take? No, that's fine. Okay.
I'm not an engineer. So
Yes. Well, I will say first of all that the land space will be there for, if we want to surface the land space that we're hoping to purchase, you can probably park up to 200 jets when it's all said and done. And I'm just saying that, but it will be a gradual approach to what we intend to do. We can go and put down the space to park 50 jets, and then you only get 15 at a given time. So you would have invested heavily in putting down a large surface for parking. So what I'm saying now is that we will start with about 15 to 20 jets comfortably. And when I say comfortably, not like you would have seen in perhaps St. Martin or any of those places where it's wing over wing, nose over nose, it will be comfortable, reasonable parking, I should put it that way. If there's the need for additional space, you expand as you go, based on the business that is generated. And I think that would be the sensible approach to build out as the demand for the space is needed, really. So we're starting at between 15 to 20 jets parking comfortably in the space that we'll have available. But right now as it is, maybe 2 or 3 can park down there currently and still accommodate commercial traffic. Sorry? Or the economic benefits? There will be tremendous benefits to the island of Nevis and NASPA as well, who will be managing the airport facility. In terms of landing fees, parking fees, lighting fees, you understand all of the fees that are involved with one aircraft, landing, and even taking off. On the taking off side, of course, you're looking at the demand for fuel, jet fuel, and also those persons who would be providing services for those jets in terms of parking agent, cleaning companies, and catering and the like. So it is huge business, Fitzroy, you know that when it comes to the FBO service or the private jet market, there's huge possibilities and big economic value to the island or the country which is operating such services. So in saying that, we are anticipating, and I'll say this, and this is something that we'll have to document here. We believe with this expansion, if we had 2 billionaires here in Nevis, we'll probably get another 5 or 6 or even up to 10. We need them to come because there are reasons why we want them to come. One, they add value to the island in terms of the notoriety of this island. People will learn about this island. People will know about this island. And we know the rich follow the rich. Johnny Howard is here among us, and there are some of you who would have followed Johnny Howard here. So the rich follow the rich. So, Nevis, as it stands, we have had some events in recent times and also some of the undertakings of the Nevis Island administration. For example, the film industry is one that we have seen some results out of. And indeed, Nevis is a sought-after island at this point in time, and it can only get better, and things can only grow more. But people need that access. If they're able to get to Nevis easily, they will come. If you're telling them they have to do jump through hoops to get to Nevis, they will think twice, 3 times, and of course we'll lose that business. So we want to capture what is ours. So the economics are there, and the facility would lend to the overall impact that we are hoping to create with the expansion and everything. Ladies and gentlemen, we said we were going until 8:30.
Okay, just one quick question before you wrap up. I just want to find out, would you be increasing the capacity of the fuel at the airport?
Yes.
In movement? Okay.
Yes, tremendously. As a matter of fact, we are hoping to store at least 200,000 gallons of jet fuel and have gas another 100,000 thereabout, yeah. So about 200,000
jet
gallons.
A, and about how many avgas?
Avgas about 100,000.
Okay.
So right now you have down there 2 small tanks which hold 20 and 20. So we will be increasing that tremendously. And you know the revenue generation that you can have from fuel sale, that is a big part of the business as well. We'll be having many more of these consultations, meaning we're going to Gingerland, we're going to St. John's, and of course we haven't done St. Thomas Parish as yet. And then we have to come back for the presentation of the EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment. And indeed, as we go along, the Ministry of Tourism, Tourism Authority, they would have their own consultation and other entities and agencies of the Nevis Island administration. So this is the second, and we'll be advertising for subsequent ones as we go along. As we go, more information will be divulged as well. But we're hoping to get the buy-in of the general public, because we do feel that we're on the right track. We feel without this particular project, I don't think Nevis will be able to get to its next level of development that we so want to achieve, and make sure that we can access the properties here on the island of Nevis, like Oahu to expand, Hermitage to expand, Four Seasons to expand, Hamilton Beach to expand, Paradise Beach to expand, expansion all around, and also attract new properties to Nevis. Because I'll say this in closing, the first question that we've been asked from time to time when we engage anyone who is thinking about bringing a hotel property to Nevis is, how are we going to get our guests to Nevis? And we've been telling them about the airport in St. Kitts. Now we can tell them that we're expanding the Vance W International Airport for them to bring their guests through that particular facility to make life easy for all of us and to make life better and make our livelihood much more, much better as we go along. So if there are no further questions, we have one, two, yes. Well, we're moving with some alacrity. We're hoping by the last quarter of this year. We're hoping, and we're pushing towards that, by the last quarter of this year to start some work. Everything would have to fall into place, though, for us to do so. But that is our anticipation. Any other questions? I think we have had a wonderful evening here this evening, I must say. And I do believe that we'll have subsequent town hall meetings with more information. And indeed, this particular event this evening will be archived, I suppose, on the various social media platforms for persons to review or persons who didn't get a chance to listen to it in its entirety, to listen again and view it again at a later point in time. But I want to thank you for joining here. Some of you would have come from various parts of the island, and we want to thank you for coming here this evening. Get home safely, and of course, listen up for the next town hall meeting that will be put on by the Nevis Island Administration as we forge towards the development expansion of the Vance W International Airport. Thank you very much, and you've been a wonderful audience. Get home safely. Thank you.